Hello, hello! Today we talk about a very interesting matter. Yeah? We talked about all small details, and the one which is having quite big interest is a Soundpost. Now, Soundpost is easy, not so actually, but how do you actually understand when you have to change the Soundpost, or there is something which doesn't really work that perfect with the Soundpost which is inside? On the sofa you see 3 violins. One is already missing because last week I had a few customers who were searching for a great instrument for their daughter, 13 years. And before I go to an appointment like this or they come up here, I always like to adjust a little bit the sound, to know what I have, and that there's a nice variety of different sounds, and all has to be somehow perfect, but you can a little bit adjust. You don't want to have all the same, right? We started to adjust a little bit the sound, and here the first notes: stop, start, take, do. These are things you certainly would like to see. And in that occasion, 2 instruments, we were adjusting them nice, and the other 2, by moving the Soundpost, actually, I could immediately tell Soundpost is too short, for instance. Now, when we make a new instrument, we always make it a little bit longer, so you really have to push a little bit, which is, generally speaking, in violin making, since most instruments are old or already used for a certain time and are not so young, is not good, because you don't want to deform the instrument itself, the belly. You don't want to push up and then everything is moving and out of the center. On the other side, on a new instrument, the Soundpost becomes too short because of the tensions, and everything is getting to its perfect situation, which then will last for hundreds of years. My experience certainly is, by moving the Soundpost with the Soundpost setter and the strings pulled up and tuned, I can already tell that it is moving too easy. So on a violin, in this case, on these instruments where I just said, okay, these Soundposts we have to change, they're already too short, we had to make it longer, 0.3 millimeters. So I take out the Soundpost, put the gauge on the surface, one like this, one like that, make a copy of that Soundpost and make it 0.3 longer. 0.3 for some people is just nothing. In violin making, a Soundpost 0.3 longer is pretty much. But on a violin, between a new violin and an already adult violin, let's say, after a few years by playing, the length of the Soundpost could be like 1.5 millimeters difference, okay? Putting a longer Soundpost inside is, on one side, the sound becomes a little bit more focused, more precise, and I believe that a too short Soundpost, or I don't believe, it's actually a matter that the whole top is sinking down and the whole bridge is moving like this, so the 4 strings are moving to one side, okay? So this is actually the main effect, which is dramatic on the sound, okay? So the whole bridge is moving, and that's not good, okay? We wanted certainly the right size, and it's very difficult to have the right size. But very nice would be that you put it in the right position, you move it a little bit, tick, 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 and it goes out of this, where the Soundpost setter is taking the Soundpost, and it's in the perfect position, so moving. But this, after a few years, immediately in the first months, you have to put it a little bit more tight. And the second reason that I understand that I have to adjust it, or the Soundpost doesn't adjust, it doesn't match too nice to the bellies on the top and the back side, is that when I'm moving the Soundpost, that it is always turning, and you always want it in a certain direction, the grains exactly 90 degrees to the grains to the top. And every time you're moving it, you see that the Soundpost is twisting a little bit strange. A little bit something about this. I explained already about some other secrets in, I think, episode 5 and episode 21. About this twisting, it's a little bit more difficult to make it understand why it is twisting, but the surfaces are not straight like the pavement and the ceiling in a room, but they are a little bit inclined, and sometimes also like this a little bit, so it's a little bit more difficult to understand the right surface. And if one of the two sides is not perfect, the Soundpost itself is twisting because it's trying to find its ideal position. And so if you move the Soundpost and you see that it's always twisting and it doesn't stay exactly where you want it, this is a clear sign that the surfaces, the upper and the lower surfaces, are not cut it and adjust it properly to that specific instruments you're playing right now. For a musician, very difficult to figure it out. For violin makers, and I know that I have a lot of followers here, they all know what I'm talking about. Many times I see that people just say, okay, never mind. This never mind, you hear it immediately, okay? And you can adjust this nice Soundpost for several days, okay? And if you're into it, and if I would have now, let's say, a great instrument or instrument for a competition, I dedicate days, okay? And once I have the right position, and I know this is my perfect position, later on, in a few months, when I have to make it a little bit longer, I just make exactly the copy with small squares which I can adjust. I make exactly the copy of that one, just a little bit longer. Yeah. I hope you like this video and you understand now why there are only 3 violins and not anymore 4, because one is gone, the one which the customers liked. And you ask your violin maker if the Soundpost is good, but ask exactly why. Without moving it, you cannot tell why, okay? Remember. Bye bye, all the best, and subscribe.